They thought you were weak. They laughed behind your back, whispered in hushed tones, smirked when you stumbled, convinced you were nothing more than a shadow, a footnote in their stories, an afterthought in a world that never saw you as a contender. They saw your silence and mistook it for submission. They saw your struggle and called it failure. They saw your hesitation and labeled it fear. But what they never saw, what they could never comprehend, was what was growing inside you. Fear, the fire, the hunger, the war that had been raging beneath your skin, turning every scar into armor, every wound into a lesson, every loss into fuel. They never saw it coming. You felt it, didn't you? That weight pressing down on you, the constant battle between who you were told to be and who you knew you could become. They made sure you never forgot your place, shoving you down whenever you tried to stand. But there's something they forgot, something critical, something dangerous. When you push a person down for too long, when you grind them into the dirt, when you strip them of dignity, hope, and self-worth, there are only two possible outcomes. They either break completely, crumbling into nothing, or they awaken. And you are awakening. This is not just another motivational speech, not just another string of empty words designed to make you feel good for a moment before you slip back into the life they carved out for you. This is your reckoning. This is the moment you look at everything that has held you back. Every voice that told you no, every failure that tried to chain you down, every doubt that whispered in the dark, and you burn them all to the ground. Because the truth, the raw, undeniable truth, is that you were never weak. You were waiting. You were observing. You were learning how this world works, how it breaks people, how it molds them into obedient shadows. But something inside you never conformed, never surrendered. And now, that part of you is ready. You are not the same person they thought they knew. You are not the version of yourself that they could manipulate, control, or dismiss. That version of you is gone. Ashes in the wind, a relic of a past that no longer defines you. What remains is something stronger, sharper, unyielding. What remains is someone they never expected, someone they now fear. You see, fear is an interesting thing. It shifts. At first it was yours. They made you afraid of speaking up, afraid of failing, afraid of disappointing the world that never even valued you in the first place. But fear has a way of changing hands. And now it's their turn to feel it. The fear of realizing they were wrong about you. The fear of seeing the fire in your eyes, the steel in your spine. The fear of knowing that they have no control over you anymore. Because now you're dangerous. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Because let me tell you something, you will never feel ready. You will never wake up one day and magically feel like you have all the answers, all the courage, all the confidence. That's not how this works. You take it, you step into the fire, you become the storm, whether you feel prepared or not. And when you do, the world will have no choice but to take notice. So hear me now. They thought you were weak. They thought you were nothing. They thought you would stay silent forever. But now they fear your strength. And that fear, it's only just beginning. They called you weak. They called you small. They called you not enough. Society did it with its rules and standards that seemed impossible to meet. Your friends, with their shallow expectations, set bars they never expected you to clear. Even the ones who were supposed to love you the most. Family treated you like an afterthought, a burden, a problem to solve rather than a person to be supported. You were never the chosen one in their eyes, never the one they bet on, always the one they overlooked, the one who didn't fit into their mold, the one who didn't measure up to their carefully curated vision of success. They made sure you knew you were not enough. They didn't say it with words, not always, but it was there in the way they spoke about others, in the way they looked at you with pity instead of respect, in the way they used your name when they spoke about your flaws, your mistakes, your missteps, always pointing out where you fell short, where you didn't fit in. They painted your life with their judgment, calling you fragile, calling you weak, calling you less than what you could be. And you swallowed it all. Every label, every assumption, every false truth they thrust upon you. You accepted it. You let it shape you. You let it distort your self-worth. And for a while, you believed them. You believed the lie that you were too much to bear, too broken to fix, too weak to succeed. But the worst betrayal, the worst blow to your spirit, it came from the ones who were supposed to believe in you, from the ones you trusted, the ones who should have been your foundation when the world was pulling you apart. Instead, they stepped aside, leaving you to fight the battles alone. They turned their backs when you needed them most, abandoning you when you reached out for help. They chose to believe the lies that others fed them, and in doing so, they betrayed you. Help. Their silence was their message. Their inaction was their judgment. They left you to stand alone in a world that already wanted to see you fail. But what did you do when they left you? You endured. You stood tall in the storm, even when the world tried to tear you down. You carried that weight alone, and not once did you let the world see how much it hurt. Not once did you let them hear your pain, your frustrations, your confusion. You suffered in silence. You hid your tears behind smiles, your exhaustion behind a brave face. Because that's what they taught you, didn't they? They taught you that you had to be strong, that asking for help was weakness, that showing vulnerability was something to be ashamed of. So you bottled it all up, letting it fester inside, building into something deeper, something more dangerous. It wasn't just pain that you were swallowing. It was doubt. Doubt in yourself. Doubt in your abilities. Doubt in your worth, because every time you failed, they were there to point it out. Every time you stumbled, they were there to remind you that you weren't cut out for this. And it worked, didn't it? It worked for a while. You let their words sink into your bones, and you started believing them. You believed that you were the problem. You believed that maybe you weren't good enough. You believed that maybe they were right, and that all your dreams, all your hopes, were just fantasies built on sand. But here's the thing no one told you. Their words were not the truth. Their labels were lies. They're lies, and somewhere deep inside, you knew it. You knew that this wasn't the end of your story. You knew that this wasn't how it was going to end. Even when you felt like you were drowning, even when it seemed like you'd never catch a break, there was a flicker inside you, a spark, a flame that refused to die. You didn't know it yet, but that flicker was growing, slowly, silently. It was burning, igniting the anger that had been sitting there all along. The anger at the world for doubting you, the anger at them for betraying you, the anger at yourself for ever letting it happen. That anger was just the beginning. The rage that's been building inside you, unnoticed, was the fuel you needed to rise. You see, anger isn't always destructive. Sometimes, anger is the catalyst for change. It's the force that pushes you past your limits, the drive that keeps you moving when the world tries to hold you back. And now, that rage is ready to be unleashed. You've carried this pain, this rejection, this loneliness for so long. You've swallowed it all, but no more. No more will you allow their judgments to define you. No more will you let their betrayal keep you in the shadows. No more will you accept their version of who you are. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not their labels. You are something much greater than they ever realized. You are ready to prove them wrong. And this time, you're going to do it on your own terms. There was a moment, a single defining moment, when everything seemed to crumble. It wasn't a dramatic fall, no. It wasn't like some grand disaster. It was quieter than that. It was the slow, sinking feeling that everything you had worked for, everything you had hoped for, was slipping away. Like sand through your fingers, the dream you'd fought for, the life you'd strive to create, began to disintegrate. That's when it hit you. The weight of it all, the relentless pressure, the endless struggle finally broke you. You reached a point where the fight didn't feel worth it anymore. The pain was too much, the isolation too heavy. And in that moment, you felt the world closing in on you, as if there was no way out, no way forward, no way back to who you once were. You were done. You were broken. And for a moment, you thought about giving up. The doubt, the shame, the overwhelming sense of failure, they all flooded your mind in that instant. Everything you had tried to be, everything you had tried to prove felt like it had been a lie. You questioned every decision, every step you had taken. Was it all worth it? Was it worth the cost? Was it worth the struggle? Or had it all been for nothing? In that moment, the internal battle began. You felt the pull of doubt, a voice telling you to give up, to walk away, to accept that this was the end. It whispered to you that you were never meant for greatness, that this was just who you were. A person destined to stay in the shadows, destined to fail. You fought with yourself, torn between the voice that wanted to surrender and the one that refused to let go. That the darkness of your own thoughts weighed you down, pushing you closer to the edge. You could feel it, the grip of self-doubt tightening around your chest, threatening to suffocate everything that remained of your spirit. But then there was the other side of you, the voice that didn't give in so easily. The voice that kept pushing you forward no matter how many times you had fallen before. The voice that reminded you of all the times you'd survived, all the battles you'd fought and won, even when you didn't think you could. It whispered to you that this was not the end, that giving up would only confirm what they all had said about you, that you were weak, that you were never enough. It was a fight, an exhausting war between your heart and your mind, between what you wanted to believe and what you were afraid of believing. On one side, fear whispered that you weren't strong enough to push through, that the weight of failure was too much to bear. On the other side, there was a quiet fire, a spark of resilience that wouldn't go out no matter how much doubt tried to douse it. But then, there were the others, the world around you, mocking you, telling you to quit, telling you that you weren't meant for this, that you would never make it. They laughed at your struggles, turning away when you reached out, pretending not to see your pain. They didn't understand. Or maybe they didn't care. They ignored your cries, your efforts, your determination to change. They treated you like you were invisible, like your fight didn't matter, like you didn't matter. They watched as you faltered, as you stumbled, as you tried and failed, and they didn't hesitate to rub it in your face. Their judgment, their ridicule, made it harder. The world's mockery only made your internal battle more intense. It was as if they had all decided that you didn't deserve to win, and every laugh, every sneer, every word of doubt chipped away at your resolve. It wasn't just the battle within you anymore. It was the battle against everyone who had ever written you off. And yet, even with all this, even when you were so close to giving in, there was something inside you that refused to let their words define you. You could feel it, this quiet, insistent force that told you, even in your darkest hour, that you weren't finished yet, that your story wasn't over, that you still had a purpose. You almost let their voices win. You almost let them determine who you were and what you were capable of. You almost surrendered to the pressure, convinced that they were right, that you were never meant to rise above the challenges, that you were destined to stay small, stay forgotten. The fear of failure almost swallowed you whole, leaving you wondering if maybe you were the problem all along. But something shifted. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't a sudden epiphany. It was a quiet realization, one that came in whispers, one that you barely noticed at first. But it was enough to break the grip of doubt. It was the knowledge that you could stand at the edge and still take one more step. Something inside you knew that you had more fight left. Something inside you told you that even at your lowest, even when it felt like everything was against you, you still had power. You still had choice. You could choose to remain broken, to stay in the shadows, to accept that this was all you were ever going to be. Or you could choose to rise. You could choose to keep fighting, to keep pushing, to keep believing in yourself even when no one else did. The darkness didn't consume you. The world didn't get to define you. And in that moment, when you stood at the edge, about to give up, you made the choice to fight back. You made the choice to prove them all wrong. Because you weren't broken. You were not what they said you were. You were so much more. And no matter how hard they tried to make you believe otherwise, you knew one thing for certain. You were not done. Not yet. Not ever. There comes a moment, almost imperceptible, when the tide begins to turn. It's not a dramatic, world-altering change. It's just a shift, a subtle crack in the armor of your former self. At first, you don't even realize it's happening, but then you begin to notice it, the way you hold yourself differently, the way you see things in a new light. It's like the veil has been lifted, and for the first time in a long while, you realize you were never meant for this. This life, this struggle, this pain, it was never supposed to define you. You've been carrying it for far too long, but now, the weight is starting to feel lighter. In that moment, you understand that you were made for more. You were meant to rise, to fight, to claim a life that wasn't dictated by the limitations others had placed on you. It's in the small moments, the quiet revolutions, that you begin to see the change. Standing a little taller, even if it's only for a moment. Speaking up when your voice had once been silenced. Refusing to shrink in the face of adversity, even when every part of you screamed to run. These are the small acts of rebellion, the first signs that you're starting to reclaim your power. It's not about making a grand statement or changing the world all at once. It's about the small decisions to no longer let the world define you. It's about standing firm in the face of your past and refusing to be bent, broken, or defined by anyone but yourself. And then there's the anger, the rage that has been simmering beneath the surface for so long. It's no longer something to be ashamed of. Free that, it's no longer something that holds you back. Now it becomes fuel. You stop seeing it as weakness, as something to suppress, and instead, you channel it into something purposeful. The anger that once consumed you, the pain that once felt unbearable, it becomes your fire. It becomes the energy you use to fight back against everything that has tried to hold you down. You harness it. You use it to propel yourself forward, not just out of defiance, but out of a deep, unshakable need to prove that you are not and have never been weak. In this phase, you begin to realize something that shifts everything within you. They were wrong about you. The world, the people who doubted you, the voices that laughed at your struggle, they were wrong. They painted a picture of you that was never true, a version of you that was small, limited, and incapable. But now, as you begin to see yourself clearly for the first time, you realize the truth. You are powerful. You are capable. You are not defined by the labels they've placed on you. You are a force, a presence, and a testament to what happens when someone dares to rise above the limitations of others' perceptions. That moment when the truth finally hits, that first real victory, no matter how small it seems, changes everything. It's the first taste of your power. It might be something as simple as holding your ground in an argument or accomplishing something that seemed impossible only weeks ago. It doesn't matter how small the victory is. What matters is how it feels. It's the first spark of confidence, the first realization that maybe, just maybe, you are capable of more than you ever thought. That victory is like a lifeline, a reminder that you are still here, still standing, and that everything you fought for has been worth it. This is the beginning of your true transformation. The first taste of power, however fleeting, is enough to set you on fire. You begin to see yourself not as the defeated, broken version they thought you were, but as someone unstoppable, someone capable of overcoming anything. From this point forward, you're no longer just surviving, you're starting to live. You're starting to thrive. And while the road ahead is long, and while there will be setbacks, this moment, the moment you begin to see your own strength, will stay with you forever. It's the moment you realize that you were always meant for greatness. It was never a question of if, but when. And that moment has come. You reach a point in your journey where you can no longer remain tethered to the past. The chains that have bound you, the limitations that once felt so real, are now nothing but illusions. You see them for what they truly are: fragile threads, weak and brittle, waiting to be broken. It's not an easy thing to do, letting go of everything that held you back, whether it was fear, doubt, shame, or the weight of others' expectations, requires a radical shift in mindset. But you've come too far now to turn back. The past is no longer your master, it's your fuel. Every piece of baggage you've carried with you, every burden, every scar, it's all been preparing you for this moment. This is where you reject everything that has held you back. You are no longer a prisoner of your own self-doubt. You are free, and freedom is a weapon. Building strength, both mentally and physically, is a grueling process. It doesn't happen overnight, but through discipline, hardship, and a relentless commitment to growth, you begin to realize that strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you cultivate. The mind and body must be trained together. Every hour spent pushing your limits, every challenge that seems insurmountable, is a brick in the foundation of your newfound power. Your body becomes stronger not just because of the weight you lift, but because of the weight you've carried in your soul. Every rep, every moment of discomfort, every sweat-soaked hour spent sharpening your body and mind, it's all an investment in the person you are becoming. And through the pain, you learn to embrace the one lesson that will define you forever. Pain is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. The wounds you've suffered, the heartbreaks, the betrayals, the failures, they were never punishments. They were lessons in resilience, in endurance, in the art of rising after every fall. Pain teaches you to keep going when everything inside you screams to quit. It teaches you that there is no growth without discomfort. It's the fire that refines you, the heat that forges you into something stronger, something more invincible. Without pain, there can be no power. Without suffering, there can be no triumph. Pain has been your shadow, but now you see it for what it really is, the key to your strength. For the first time, you begin to discover who you really are. All those years of self-doubt, of feeling less than, of hiding your true potential from the world, none of that was real. You were never weak. You were simply untested. The trials you've faced have forged you into something unrecognizable, a version of yourself that you've always been capable of becoming, but never had the chance to fully express. The person you are today is the person you were always meant to be. You're no longer hiding from your potential. You're stepping into it, fully and unapologetically. You discovered the depths of your power, and you now understand that what once seemed like your greatest flaw was actually your greatest strength. Your ability to endure, to rise, and to keep moving forward no matter what. The story that others have written for you, one of defeat, of insignificance, of being underestimated, is now irrelevant. You are the author of your own legend. You rewrite the narrative not just through your actions, but through your mindset. Every choice you make, every step you take, is a declaration that you are not defined by the opinions of others. You are not defined by your past mistakes or the failures they expected you to succumb to. You are creating a new chapter, one that is filled with strength, victory, and unwavering belief in yourself. The power to shape your future is in your hands, and you're writing it with the ink of perseverance, determination, and courage. As you begin to break the chains of your past and build your relentless strength, you realize something profound. This journey was never about proving others wrong. It was about proving yourself right. Every day you commit to being stronger, better, more unstoppable is a testament to the resilience you've developed. And with every moment, every ounce of effort you put into training your mind and body, you rewrite the story of your life. This is no longer the tale of someone broken by the world. It's the story of someone who rose, who fought, who became. And in that, you find the true meaning of strength. You return to the battlefield, but this time, you're not the same person who once felt small, defeated, or invisible. No, now you stand tall, fully aware of your power, your purpose, and your worth. You step into the very spaces where you were once humiliated, where your failures were mocked, and where your every move was scrutinized. There is no longer any fear in your heart, only the cold, unshakable certainty that you belong here. These are the same places that once made you question yourself. But now, They are the proving grounds for the person you've become. You don't fear them anymore. You don't fear anything. The battlefield isn't just where you've fought, it's where you've earned the right to stand as a victor. And now, it's time for the world to witness that victory. The shock in their eyes is undeniable. They thought you'd remain in the shadows, small, insignificant, a faded memory of someone who had once failed. They underestimated you. They never saw the fire that was brewing beneath the surface, the hunger for more, the refusal to stay down. They had written you off, assumed you'd never rise. But now, as you walk back into their world, they see you, truly see you, for the first time, and the shock on their faces says it all. They never expected you to come back stronger, better, unbreakable. Their disbelief is a reflection of their own limitations. They couldn't see your potential, your strength, because they were too focused on their own doubts. Now, they must confront the reality that they were wrong. You've become something they can't ignore. Your revenge, however, isn't in some dramatic confrontation or harsh words. It's in your success. You don't need to tell them you've won. You show them. Your very existence is a testament to what they thought you could never be. Every step you take forward, every achievement you claim, is the loudest revenge you could possibly take. Your success drowns out their doubts and silences their criticisms. The world they tried to confine you to no longer matters. You've moved beyond their narrow expectations. Your victory doesn't need validation from them. It is proof enough that you've risen above their limitations and turned their doubts into your driving force. As you walk through the same spaces where they once saw you as nothing, they no longer recognize you. The person who was once invisible to them, the one who was dismissed and underestimated, has transformed. The physical changes might be obvious, your posture, your confidence, the way you carry yourself. But it's more than that. The person who once walked in their shadow has now stepped into the light, and they can't even begin to comprehend the strength and power you've built. You've become unrecognizable, not just in appearance, but in essence. You are no longer the person they thought you were. You've become a force, untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable, and they see it now. They see what you've become, and in their eyes there's a flicker of something they can't deny. Fear. It's not the kind of fear that makes them run. No, this fear is deeper. It's the kind of fear that comes from realizing that someone they once deemed weak, someone they once thought they could crush, is now standing taller than ever. They see what you've become and it terrifies them. Why? Because they know that their doubts and dismissals no longer matter. They see that you have found your power and it's stronger than anything they could ever take from you. They see that you've become a person who cannot be broken, who will not bend, who will not back down. You are no longer someone they can easily manipulate or push aside. You are someone they must reckon with. You are someone they must reckon with. And that realization strikes fear into their hearts because they understand, perhaps for the first time, that you have become untouchable. You are the storm they cannot weather, the force they cannot fight. This return isn't just about confronting those who doubted you. It's about showing the world that you are unbreakable. Every look of shock, every moment of disbelief in their eyes is a reminder that you have risen. And this time, you will never fall. The truth about strength is one you had to learn the hard way. It's not about muscles or physical prowess. It's not about how much weight you can lift, how fast you can run, or how high you can jump. Strength is a mindset, an unshakable belief in your own worth, your own potential, the kind of strength that no one can take from you, no matter how much they try to tear you down. Strength is the ability to stand in the face of adversity, to face your own doubts and still rise above them. It's the resilience to continue pushing forward even when the world seems to want you to quit. True strength comes from within, and it was always there, buried beneath the layers of self-doubt, pain, and fear. They never controlled you, no matter how hard they tried. Their opinions, their words, their judgments, they never held the power they thought they did. For so long, you allowed them to dictate how you saw yourself, allowing their perceptions to shape your reality. But the truth is, their judgments never mattered. Their words were nothing more than echoes in the background, designed to distract you from your true power. They never had control over you. The only thing that held you back was your own fear of not being enough. But now, you see it clearly. Their power was never real. The power you sought was always inside you. You were always the one in control of your destiny. You were always powerful. That truth, buried deep inside you, is the very thing you needed to remember. You were never weak, never fragile, never incapable. You simply hadn't unlocked the potential that was always waiting inside you. They didn't see it because they couldn't see beyond their own limitations. But now, you see it. You see that you have always had the power to overcome, to rise, to become exactly who you were meant to be. All that was needed was for you to remember the strength that was already within you, waiting for the right moment to emerge. And that moment has arrived. No more seeking approval. You don't need anyone's validation anymore. You've spent so much of your life trying to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. You've looked for approval from people who never had the ability to truly understand you. But now you know the truth. You don't need their permission. You don't need their praise, their acceptance, or their applause. The only validation you need is from within. You have become your own source of strength, your own source of confidence. The opinions of others no longer hold power over you. You walk in your own truth, unshaken by the judgment of those who can't see you for who you really are. The final goodbye to the past isn't just about moving on, it's about rising above. You've outgrown the version of yourself that was shaped by the pain, the rejection, the doubt, and the fear. You don't just leave the past behind you, you transcend it. You no longer carry the weight of old wounds. You have evolved, and in doing so, you've elevated yourself to a place where the past holds no sway over your present or future. The chains that once held you down have broken, and you've emerged from the ashes of your former self as someone who is stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. Your journey is no longer defined by the mistakes, the failures, or the doubts of the past. It's defined by who you are now and who you are becoming. This isn't just a goodbye to the past. It's the beginning of something new. You've stepped into your power, and nothing can take that away. From this point on, you rise. Not because you have to, but because you now know that you were always meant to. The test of strength is the moment where everything you've fought for is put to the ultimate challenge. It's the defining moment that demands you step up and prove all the progress, the sacrifices, and the battles you've faced. It's a challenge that pushes you to the edge, forcing you to confront your own limits and test your resolve. The world is watching, expecting you to falter, expecting you to fall back into the version of yourself they once knew. But this is where you draw your line in the sand. This is where you stand firm, unshaken by the pressures around you, and prove just how far you've come. This is your moment of reckoning, the moment where you finally show that you were never as weak as they thought, that you were always capable of greatness. In this test, you will prove that you are now everything they underestimated you to be, and more. Refusing to bow ever again is a declaration, a commitment. No longer will you shrink back into the shadows. No longer will you let fear dictate your actions. You've spent too much of your life apologizing for your existence, playing small, conforming to the expectations of others. But this test, this challenge, is where you break free. You stand tall, unafraid, and unapologetic. You will not submit. You will not back down. Every ounce of your strength is called into action here. And with each passing moment, you reaffirm your decision to never again allow yourself to be less than what you are capable of. You are no longer a passive participant in your own life. You are the one in control, the one dictating the terms. From this moment forward, you are not here to play by anyone's rules but your own. Crushing limitations is about defying every expectation they had of you. It's about doing the things they told you were impossible, proving to them and to yourself that nothing is beyond your reach. For so long, you carried the weight of their doubts, their belief that you couldn't make it, that you weren't enough. They built walls around you, thinking that you would never have the strength to tear them down. But what they failed to understand was that every doubt they cast upon you only served to fuel your fire. Every limitation they placed in your way was merely an obstacle for you to overcome. Now, it's time to shatter those limitations once and for all. You're no longer bound by the narrow view of who they thought you were. You rise above their constraints and achieve the impossible, proving that the only limits that exist are the ones you place on yourself. The shift in power is undeniable. It's the moment when you realize that you are no longer reacting to the world around you, you are now the one shaping it. The power that was once in the hands of others, those who doubted, belittled, or underestimated you, has shifted to you. They now feel the weight of their miscalculations, and they are forced to witness the transformation you've undergone. You are no longer the person they could manipulate or control. You've broken free from their influence, and now you are the one in command of your own destiny. The energy, the focus, the drive that once belonged to them now courses through you. You are the force that others must reckon with, and you wield that power with purpose, unyielding in your pursuit of greatness. Looking them in the eye is the final confrontation. It's the moment where they can no longer deny the truth. As you stand before them, unbroken, unbowed, and unstoppable, they see you for who you truly are. The person they never thought you could become, the person they thought was too weak, too fragile, too broken to ever rise. And in that moment, when you lock eyes with them, you see their realization. They understand all at once that they should have never underestimated you. Their disbelief, their mockery, their dismissiveness, it all crumbles in the face of your unwavering strength. They finally see you, not as the person they tried to break, but as the person you were always meant to be. And they know, deep down, that they were wrong about you all along. The transformation is complete. You are no longer the person they thought you were. The person they saw as fragile, unworthy, or incapable is gone. In their place stands someone new, someone unrecognizable to the world and perhaps even to yourself. The person who once struggled to find their place, the one who was written off as weak or destined for failure, has now become a force to be reckoned with. Every hardship, every insult, every moment of doubt has forged you into something extraordinary. They never saw this coming. And now you stand in your full power, ready to show the world that they were wrong about you from the start. The transformation isn't just physical. It's mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's a complete reinvention, and you know without a doubt that you are unbreakable. You walk with power. No hesitation, no fear. You've learned to trust yourself in ways you never thought possible. The timid steps of the past are now replaced by a confident stride, a purposeful movement through the world. Your head is held high and your gaze is unwavering. Every step you take echoes with the certainty that you are exactly where you are meant to be. The world may still try to throw its challenges your way, but you know now that you are capable of overcoming anything. There's a calmness in your power, an inner knowing that no matter what lies ahead, you will meet it with strength and resilience. You don't second guess yourself. You don't doubt your worth. Every move you make is deliberate, each choice infused with the certainty that you are unstoppable. They whisper about you now, the same people who mocked you, belittled you, and doubted your potential. They're no longer laughing, no longer casting judgment from the sidelines. Now, your name is spoken with a mixture of awe and fear. They're forced to reckon with the fact that you've become everything they never thought you could be, everything they tried to bury. You are the subject of their conversations, their whispers, tinged with envy and respect. The same ones who once saw your struggles as evidence of weakness are now witnessing your triumph. They know that you have risen beyond their expectations, and while they may never admit it aloud, they understand the truth now. You are untouchable. The respect you command is undeniable. It's not something you demand, it's something you've earned. With every obstacle you overcame, with every challenge you turned into an opportunity, you've built a reputation that commands respect. No one dares to underestimate you again. The same people who dismissed you as insignificant now look at you with a mixture of admiration and fear. You've proven yourself to be a force of nature, someone who cannot be defeated, someone who will not be ignored. In the eyes of those who once doubted you, you are now a symbol of strength, resilience, and unwavering determination. You've earned the right to stand tall, and no one will ever forget the lessons they've learned by underestimating you. The message to others is clear. If they doubt you, let them. Just make sure they live to regret it. There will always be those who question your abilities, those who try to put you down or hold you back. But let them doubt. Let them underestimate you. They will soon learn that their doubts only fuel your fire. Their criticisms only push you further toward greatness. You don't need their approval to succeed. You don't need their validation to feel worthy. The only thing you need is your belief in yourself. And as you continue to rise, you will show them all what it means to be underestimated. Let them watch as you break every barrier, shatter every limitation, and achieve everything they thought was impossible. When they see you succeed, when they see the heights you've reached, they will realize that the only mistake they made was doubting you. Your story will inspire others. Every struggle, every battle you've fought, and every victory you've claimed has created a narrative of resilience, defiance, and unbreakable strength. The weak, those who once saw themselves as incapable or destined for failure, will look at you and know that they too can rise. You are the proof that it's possible to overcome the odds, to defy expectations, and to build a life from nothing but grit and determination. Your story will be the spark that ignites change in others, the flicker of hope for those who think they have nothing left to give. They will see your strength, your transformation, and they will understand that they too have the power to rewrite their own destinies. They'll look at you and say, if they can do it, so can I. And in that moment, you will have given them the greatest gift, the belief in themselves. The fear will never return. Once you have tasted true power, once you have confronted your deepest fears and emerged stronger, you know that you will never go back to the way you once were. Fear, doubt, insecurity, they may have ruled your life at one point, but they no longer have a hold over you. You've seen what you're capable of, and nothing can take that away from you. The lessons learned, the strengths gained, and the battles won are now etched in your very being. They are your armor. You can never unknow your own power. Fear may still knock at your door, but you now know how to silence it. You've already faced your darkest moments, and you came out on the other side unscathed, stronger than ever. That knowledge will keep fear at bay, because once you know your power, you never forget it. You were never weak, they were just blind. The truth about you was always there, buried deep inside. All the people who doubted you, who tried to label you as weak, incapable, or unworthy, they simply couldn't see the truth. Their narrow vision couldn't recognize the fire that burned within you. They mistook your quiet resilience for fragility, your moments of struggle for weakness. But they were wrong. The truth was there all along, waiting for the right moment to break free. They never saw your potential, your strength, or your capacity for greatness. But now, you know. And that knowledge will guide you for the rest of your life. The world may not always see you for what you truly are, but that no longer matters. You are. You see yourself now, and that is all that counts. And now, the challenge is on you. What will you do now that you've awakened? Now that you've become everything you were always meant to be? The path forward is in your hands. The world is waiting for you to step into your full power, to take the lessons you've learned and use them to leave your mark. You've broken free from the chains of doubt, and now you must choose what to do with that freedom. Will you continue to rise? Will you use your strength to inspire others and make an impact on the world around you? Or will you settle into comfort and let the world forget your story? The choice is yours. But know this, you are now the author of your own destiny. Your story has only just begun. What legacy will you leave behind? The answer is in your hands. Will you continue to defy the odds and write your legend, or will you let the world's doubts and fears hold you back? The time for hesitation is over. It's time to show them all what you are truly capable of.